Hey, you wanna know what's cool? Ice. You wanna know what's not cool? Melted ice. This box art. I hate it so much, and I'll tell you all about it, like, right now. Or I guess in like a few seconds after the logo. Thing. Whatever. Thing from Japan. Everything is cooler in the land of the rising sun. Apparently. But it looks like the cover art from Mario 64 DS did not get this memo, because this has to be, without a doubt, one of the ugliest things I have ever had the displeasures of laying my visual balls on in my entire life. So, what better thing to do than talk about it for a couple of minutes? A fair warning though, if you don't like super deep analysis, otherwise known as nitpicking, then click away immediately. Otherwise, let's go!
Here we go!
It's me, Mario.
From a first glance, we can see that the designers went with a slight bird's eye view of the main characters running around in a presumably open field, with a few in-game elements scattered across the ground here and there. Now, I'm not a graphic design artist by any means. I don't have a degree of questionable worth hanging from my wall from a community college that certifies me to make art. But I am willing to risk all of my internet credibility on the line right here in this very moment to say that this piece is total butt cheeks. But come on, it can't be that bad compared to the North American version. Surely it's not that far off in quality. Ba-bam! Oh my goodness, this is just perfection. That boy, Leonardo da Vinci, rose from the grave to craft this masterpiece, Mamma Mia. The main focal point of the cover immediately slaps you in the face with the main cast lunging towards you as one unified, albeit dynamic, group. The image feels as though it was snapped right out of some kind of cutscene with a slight blur effect applied to the surrounding ground and plumbers' feet, selling the idea of them being in a state of motion. Like holy baloney, I'm going to get run over if I don't hurry up and buy this game ASAP. That's not even addressing the sheer amounts of personality that is oozing from their poses. Mario, rightfully so, is leading the pack with his leg outwards the furthest, ready to step into some Bowser butt-kicking action. But amid this, he's busy dealing with his other dastardly rival, Wario. This man is coming in hot with a healthy dose of his classic Wario confidence, with a wide open grin that you just know is letting out some wahs as he hits Mario with one of his famous shoulder tackles. A detail that I absolutely love is how both of their eyes are locked in at each other as they're mid-clash. This is a rare example of a piece of box art where Mario isn't total happy smiles for the camera. And I mean, how could he be when there's a 300-pound man down his back? Luigi clearly wants nothing to do with that scuffle, as he's barely able to keep himself upright amongst the commotion. Very fitting. And Yoshi is, well, he's just happy to be there, carefree as ever. On the other foot, the Japan depictions of these fellas are not hitting nearly as hard. First off, just addressing the huge, or I guess tiny in this case, elephant in the room. Why are these boys so small? They're like some itty-bitty ants on an already microscopic game case. I would imagine if you were in some sort of store, you'd have to squint your eyes to make out what's going on. And even if you did, you'd find that there's not much to get you dying to whip out your wallet over. It's hard trying to piece together what exactly is going on here, but it's pretty much more or less the same thing as the North American cover. Running in a field, just a lot more chillaxed. On one hand, something about Wario barely being on the canvas is kind of irritating, but I suppose this detail can give credence to the scene feeling more natural, as if it was, again, a screenshot of a moving image. But why is he so nonchalant? Normally, Wario is a man bursting to the brim with charm, and this box art is doing him no justice in that department. Yoshi is straight up confusing me as to why he's taking a faceplant dive into the ground with nothing around him. him? Why is he so clumsy? At least with Luigi, he had a valid reason to be tripping as he had Mario and Wario duking it out right beside him. But Yoshi, no such excuse. That's just pathetic, dog. My personal headcanon is that Wario pushed him down and is trying to play it off by acting so out of the loop, but whatever. Moving on to that gentleman Luigi, who I also have a bone to pick with. I think he's slightly misrepresented here as he's leading the group downwards this path they're taking. Now, I don't want to downplay Luigi's heroism in his time spent across spooky mansions, but within the public eye, and especially on adventures with his brother, he definitely plays second fiddle. So him being up front, at least from their perspective, is kinda wacky. If anything, I think swapping his and Yoshi's positions would have worked a little better. You don't have to put Luigi's face planted into the ground, put a little respect on his name, but akin to the North American art, maybe just have him stumbling about some. Yoshi being the first to wherever they're headed, the castle I guess, fits in with how the events of the actual game plays out. Last but not least, Mario is again the main star, but there's something so awkward about his pose. He has the wing cap on, which lets him fly, but it's not shown off that well as he's barely off the ground in a sort of mid-takeoff position. It's just odd to say the least. It's a direct side effect of going with this downwards camera angle for the shots. It makes the entire thing feel so boxed in and constrained. This sentiment is in direct opposition with the original Mario 64's cover arts, both NA and Japan's. There, we can see how free Mario is painted, soaring through the air with the entire world underneath him, as if he's breaking through a new frontier, which he totally was at the beginning of the N64's lifespan. I'm not saying DS had to copy this one for one, but North American's direction, while still being grounded, keeps an aura of openness surrounding it with the parting clouds letting a sunny blue sky shine down upon the main cast, while also giving ample room for the game's logo to be posted up tall and proud as if it's exclaiming to everyone who passes by that, yes, it is I, Super Mario 64 DS. Buy me, please. On the contrary, Japan's logo placement is giving me some mixed feelings. With the characters being so tiny and scattered, my eyes are drawn to this logo over anything else. Now, a logo being the allure of a cover isn't unheard of, but here it makes me a bit unnerved as I look upon how it's uncentered, slightly tilted, and positioned in such an awkward spot. Logos being in the upper center-ish area is a common trend you'll see on a ton of covers, but obviously such a straightforward design choice isn't totally necessary. Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2 handles tucking the game's logo in the corner quite well, without it being too out of the way nor distracting. It's even more impressive when you take into consideration how well it makes the blank space feel integral to the overall design. But I think I'm only bringing this example up so I can gush about how amazing that box art is. Also, notice how I didn't make a joke about the game's funky title. That challenge has a 94% fail rate, but alas, hold your applause. Anyways, Japan 64 DS feels more so chaotically evil, as if one of the designers threw the logo onto the box at the last second and said, that looks good enough, man. You know, the very least they could have done was make it a good logo, because as is, it's ugly and bad and probably dumb compared to the North American version. But before you accuse me of grasping at straws, if so, I'm surprised you made it this far, they actually do differ quite a lot, even with taking out the portion of Japanese text. The grayish tone coming from the silver outline coating the main text alongside the giant DS doubling down on the same look overpowers and deprives the otherwise fairly vibrant lettering of the Japan logo logo. Whenever I look at it, I start to get a strange metallic taste in my mouth. It's either that or the heartburn. NA's logo is mellow on the eyes with its wooden texture outlining the text, making each individual letter pop. In addition, this design is a direct callback to the original Mario 64's logo. Speaking of which, the 64 in the title is ripped straight from the OG's as opposed to Japan DS's 64 being styled in the same font as Super Mario. You can say it looks better being uniformed all you want, but the variety within styles helps everything stand out more while respecting its elders. This is further extended to the DS portion as, for one, it's not melded onto the overall logo like Japan's, and two, it's distinct from the rest of the text. It sticks out like a sore thumb. Normally, one would call this poor design, but for the context of what the game is, a DS port of the N64 game, having the new part of the logo be distinguished helps push that this is a new experience for a new device. I will admit, the one true negative of the NA logo is the weird choice to make the coloring of Super pure blue all the way across. No other version of Mario 64 has it this way, so sadly kind of a rare L for those silly North Americans. Finally, concerning the little pieces of the box art that don't matter as much, but I'm still going to spend time talking about them. NA's cover, surprise surprise, is gooder than Japan's. Messiness is a reoccurring theme in the Japan art, and it certainly applies to the random pipes, mushroom, Koopa shell, and red mystery block all just sorta laying around. Sure, it adds some much needed elements to this otherwise snooze of a scene, but they feel so lazily put down. There's simply no rhyme or reason for them being there. The North American cover made sure not to be conservative with its allocated space, and utilized most of the middle to be direct, while also leaving some spare space on both sides to throw in some smaller elements. One of which being Peach's castle, you know, the entire location of the game? Not totally needed, see something like Banjo-Kazooie for an example of the art taking place in a random location, but it does give more of a push for this artwork being exclusively from Mario 64 instead of being able to swap out the title for anything remotely related. I will say that the star over there with its blank smile does frighten me a little bit. On the other side, we finish off with the green pipe and block. They play more of a backseat role compared to the Japan art, which is totally fine in this case. It's out of the way without being too unnoticeable. And yeah, that's about it. By this point, I hope you've joined me on this hate crusade against the Japanese box art of Mario 64 DS. But if you have anything else better to do with your time, then I fully understand. And if you're someone who actually likes this art, well, you are wrong because it is bad, and whoever designed it should feel bad.
Bruh, look at this dude.